All right, thank you guys. For those of us who've been here since session 1 and those of us jumping in, high five Matthew, for shout out. We're gonna go over capturing more leads, and just as a heads up, everything's being recorded, right? And we're gonna redo the entire 1 through 20 session back in or later on in August. So we'll have another opportunity of doing this together. All right, so we're gonna cap off lead generation, one of our big pillars, with capturing more leads. And we're gonna go over systems that work, prospecting versus marketing. There's definitely a difference there. Gold mine of referrals, where to find that, more sources of lead generation, capture every lead through some sort of meaningful database, which we'll jump on as well. And quote of the day, or one of the quotes of the day, you love people, but at the same time, you haven't learned to love hunting for them. And that's Gary Keller from the Flip Shift. Does anyone have any type of perspective or any aha when it comes to this quote? Think about it.
Does that mean you don't love hunting for houses for them, or you don't love finding people to find houses for?
I think,
Oh, you and then Jessica.
I was gonna say, I think what it means, like, wait until you start working with them and looking with them for what they're looking for, or helping them achieve like their real estate goals. You don't know how much you won't know that you love it a lot or something, right? Like you'll learn to love it, or you'll kind of know whether it's something you want to do or not.
I also feel like maybe,
Okay.
like you want to hunt with them, but you're afraid to go out there and get them first. Like, I'm gonna be fighting them.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I think it's easier to love people, just like having us in this room, and harder to work for people, harder to do things for people or have aspiration to do the actual work. It's easy to have a conversation, but the follow-up is probably the harder part.
So between everything you guys said, you put a comment out there about the prospecting aspect. Like if someone came to me and said, hey, you know, you're however the interaction starts, it's like, great, I'm not gonna turn someone away. We're always gonna be like in a friendly dialogue and all that fun stuff. Hunting for them is finding more of those relationships on purpose, right? Like I could hang out with my kids at a birthday party, and the other dads and moms, we get into a conversation. It's like there's a gravity source, right? And we're just talking about the kids, whatever's going on in life. Learning how, yet, but at the same time, you haven't learned to love hunting for them, could also be meaning in the sense of finding more of those relationships on purpose through prospecting, through marketing efforts. As the numbers come in, are we calling them? As we hear and listen to people talk about their goals, and maybe some of it might pertain to real estate, are we asking and introducing ourselves as a resource and consultant for them, or are we just being friendly? Like I thought of it as when I was preparing for this, the way I thought of it was, am I just being a friendly person with everyone and not telling them like, hey, this is what I do for a living and I'm awesome at it, or to some degree letting them know I could be that person for them? Or am I just, you know, enjoying the time and hoping that they just say, hey, it sounds like you know real estate, can you help me, right? So there's these elements of finding out ways that, hey, I love everyone that I get to meet. Am I putting myself in position to meet more people in that regard? Anyone online would like to share on that? If not, anyone from the room that would like to kind of cap us off, or we're good on this?
Yeah, it's a good point you brought that up, because in the beginning, as like new agent, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, you want to be friendly with people because you don't know so much. For me, I speak for myself about real estate, you know, but I think that's like a challenge for me where, okay, I have a good connection with this person. Okay, like, do you look at me like I'm a real estate consultant?
How do you make the pitch without pitching?
Yeah, right. Like, I'm fairly new in the industry, so it's like I don't know so much about real estate. Well, I'm learning, but I could definitely
That
say,
you have to put in your back pocket,
Yeah.
forget about how much, how little.
yeah.
And it's constantly changing.
Just bring them in.
I can say that within the 4 months, my conversation has improved significantly. And I'm talking real estate like The heck? When did I say that, you know, like,
We know that because we've heard you in this room talking very confidently about how you talk to people.
And we've seen the growth. I mean,
Yeah,
the fact that you're
thanks.
hitting everyone on Instagram, everyone on Facebook, now you're tackling your mom's Facebook, that is like growth on top of growth. I'm calling, I created a new tag, I called it titas. That's like the Filipino term for tita, yeah, okay, so I created a new tag that's basically all my mom's friends. And like we highlighted here earlier, they're all in their 60s, they're all retiring from nursing. They all have kids who are roughly my age, give or take 5 years, maybe 10 years older, 10 years younger. And they're all in this position to like capitalize not only on their retirement, but also the fact that their kids are doing their thing. And now they have this house, where it's like, I don't need this gigantic home, and if I can clear this number and move, who knows, right? Or travel to Jerusalem, do all these things that I always wanted to do, but never had time and money for. Now I have both, right? So it's finding those motivations, and learning how to love finding more of those motivated situations, right? Learning to love the hunt. I mean, it's such a weird word, hunting, but if you want to replace the word hunting, it's conversing with people, it's asking questions of people. I use the term needs analysis. How many people can I have a needs analysis with about their financial future, about their current situation in relation to their goals, and how possibly real estate may play a role in that, right? Whether as a seller, who's going to capitalize on the profit or the net proceeds, to a buyer buying their first home, an investor, how does that all fit together? And it doesn't mean that they're ready today. They could be ready 3 years from now. My business will be here 3 years from now. I'll be here. Hopefully, God will be here 3 years from now. But that's that. And we can always revisit this as we go through. We're becoming systems that work. Your number one job is to find ways to get in the path of motivated buyers and sellers. And highlighting what you've been doing, literally through social media and your cell phone, and now putting them into command. I was just in conversation with our team leader, Stephanie, and she was like, hey, why isn't anybody doing expires? And you know what? We don't talk about it, right? It's not one of our focuses, but she has such a great point. You see all those price reductions happening at the 1 if you go to North Valley, you'll see homes listed at 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, and you see them now dropping their price. What if they don't sell? And because as listing agents, we've been so spoiled, we've been taking 2-month listing contracts instead of 6-month listing contracts. So as those listings expire, someone's gonna call them, someone will have an opportunity to meet them, and someone will have an opportunity to list them at a more realistic price, right? And what's the advantage of a seller listing with someone new without relisting with their same agent, is that they get to reset their days on market. They go from 60, 90, 120, or even 180, which is considered like, oh my God, something wrong with the house. They go to Matthew with a fresh start at 0 days on market. They connect with him on a realistic price, and Matthew looks like a genius selling at the first open house, right? And they get to move on to where they want to be. And it just, for whatever reason, timing just didn't work for them, working with the other agent, they overpriced or whatever had happened there. So that is just finding ways to get in the path of those sellers and buyers. I wish they would flip the words, say motivated sellers and buyers instead of buyers and sellers. And the reason I say that is that our mind goes to A, right? Well, what's the first thing we think of? Motivated buyers. Oh, I'm gonna look for buyers. No. Motivated sellers and then buyers. But that's just on that word shift. The 2 M's of lead generation is message and method. Now, this is a big one. What is the message that we're curating in order to make the contacts that we're making? Typically, when I'm calling, I will look at the who's who on my list. And if I notice that I'm following up with a lot of buyers, my conversation, and I don't write this down, it's just kind of in the back of my head. Early on, you might want to do a printout with Cindy or your preferred partner when it comes to like a market update of some kind. But I'll match my message to my market, and then I can go to a target audience or market conditions on the right-hand side. I can make an offer. And making an offer is, hey, if we were able to get you to the house that you were looking to do, to the community you were looking to get into, with a little bit of above or under what you're currently paying for rent, is that something you'd be open to exploring? And that's working with the buyer. That's making an offer to that buyer. And one of 2 things can happen. It's a direct offer, indirect offer, you get a response. brief example besides the buyer would be a seller. So I'm calling Matthew, and this would be an indirect offer. Matthew, do you happen to know of anyone right now who's thinking of possibly selling their home? Prices are still at an all-time high, and we have a handful of buyers who would be a great match for your neighborhood or your area. By any chance, does anyone come to mind? That's an indirect offer, right? That's me asking around Matthew's sphere of influence, around his geographic neighborhood, around his geographic location. A direct offer would be, hey, Matthew, if we were able to hit that goal you had in mind, like maybe I've asked him, what would get you to move? What number would you have in mind? And he gives me a number. He capitulates and says, hey, if I can get 1.5 for my house, I'm out. Well, awesome. If we were able to get you a $1.5 million offer in 30 days or less, is that something you would be open to meeting about and help allowing us to get started? So if you think you can get that, sure, we can schedule such and such date, right? It's basically sales 101, you know, put an offer out there that they can't say no to, or a make me move type offer. And don't be unrealistic to know the market. If he's asking for 1.5 and it's Canoga Park where I live and it's no more than 1 million or 1.1, have a realistic dialogue. Like, hey, if we're not able to get you 1.5, would you be willing to look and see what the market is? And I would still take the appointment, right? Because maybe we can scratch at a couple more things in person, but that would be an example of a direct offer, right? Now the methods, once you kind of have your messaging down with matching your market, the target audience, the market conditions, and again, it's going to vary. If you're doing a geographic farm, it's a lot easier to have a printout from Cindy actually of all of the schools in the area, the walking score, all that stuff. And then of course the rates. If you're doing an open house, you'll kind of base it around the house that you're doing the listing for. Now the methods, there's two methods for it. There's prospecting and then there's marketing. And you really time block for both, right? And when you're prospecting, and everyone's probably heard the one thing to some degree, right? You know, time block 3 to 4 hours, ideally 4 hours for your one thing. Our one thing, if you think about it, would really be the prospecting aspect and marketing aspect of what we do. And you time block to prepare, like who are you calling, take action, make the calls. 3, maintain, which is work your database, add edit the contacts, send out your thank you notes. Maybe you DM people or you're sending them emails, but all of that is capitulated in that time block for prospecting. And we'll dive a little deeper into that in the following slides. So here we go. So leads are everywhere. You approach, you connect, and you ask. And that could be, you know, when I'm thinking of prospecting, for me, it's going through my database, my cell phone. If I'm brand new, I'm calling my cell phone. I'm starting with my top 25 people. And this is for Matthew, for me, for everyone in the room. Even online, this is a reminder, start with your core group. The people, the top 25 couples or individuals who say, no matter what you're doing in life, I got your back. They might not be able to sell their house to you right away or refer someone off the top of their head, but they know that they'll support you throughout whatever you're doing. And you go into your past client database. For those who are new to real estate, that might be your past coworkers. Maybe you're in a sales division type thing, so you're reaching out to those past clients. You're building a network around there. Out of all of us, Cindy has the most past clients, so you can literally just live off of prospecting just there.
That's all I've done for ages. And I started out with all the people on my cell phone and my social media and all my past coworkers. I started with 0 clients.
Wow.
And I've never paid for a referral or a lead.
Eventually, I'm telling you, you can turn your database into a lead aggregate like an Opcity. And Opcity charges 35%, 38%, whatever the number is. The office gets their piece, of course, when they're paying for it. And then so the agent really gets like 45 or 40 or 30% when it's all said and done, right? You could be like your own Opcity and saying, hey, I'm going to do the refis and the purchases. These 10 people need to sell their house. Oh, by the way, these 10 people need to buy a house. You yourself doesn't earn the commission or the split, but your company earns the revenue share on that. And you could give everyone a deal and say, I'll take only 25%. And now you're farming out leads for business and you get the passive income stream. And so there's some thoughts there around these databases because we can all do the same thing. right? We can monetize our cell phones. You know, we can be our own YouTubers with our databases in a sense, you know, kind of throwing that out there for all of us on that
Gig
path.
workers,
Um,
our own gig worker with ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Well, think about it, like, okay, here's a great example. You're prospecting, you're marketing, people are coming to you. You have so many people coming in that you have to be a little discerning of your time, right? And you might meet somebody who's overly qualified, all cash buyer, whatever you design as, you can see as a perfect client who's ready, able, and willing to purchase. And you know what, you just don't connect. There's such a jerk off that, you know, you're just not melding, and you have choices, right? You can either work with someone who's super cool, resonates with you, and it might be a little bit more work, but you're still gonna get the deal done. Or you can work with someone, exact same situation, but you know you're gonna just clash all the way through. Well, why don't you match their personality with someone who matches them? You know, you might say, oh, Billy matches really well with William. Great, let's get those in, the two same names. But let's match those two people together, and now you play real estate matchmaker and you get your referral fee, whatever that is, right? So you can really get it to a point where you're just doing so much that you're just like refer, passive income coming in. Oh, great, I'm gonna work with the 2 best clients, or 5 best clients, or 10 best clients. Well, extrapolate our databases out, right? Like if you've got even 500 people in your cell phone, and it took 5 years to get a 20% return, where of the contacts, 20% will turn into a deal, a referral that becomes a deal, that's 100. And I think the Millionaire Real Estate Book says 16, if you round it down to 10, in 5 years, if you're getting 50 deals off of a 500 client database every year predictably, guess what you're doing? You're adding new past clients back into that funnel. You're adding the referrals back into that funnel. You've probably done micro farming, so you're adding those contacts back into the funnel. And now what started off as 500 could easily be 5,000 over a 5 to 10 year period. Now however you're managing it, whether a VA or a team or support, whatever, third party handling it, the people who raise their hand and say, hey, I'm ready to sell my house, what do I do? There you go. You can farm them out, you can do them yourself, you can have a team to support all that. I mean, there's so many ways this could go. I mean, it's almost mind-blowing where you're like, oh, I just wanted to make like 5 deals. But 5 deals could become 50. You know, I mean, my year one, my first 8 months was 0. My full year, which I was rookie of the year, that was nice enough. They were nice enough to give that to me. I helped 8 families buy and sell a house. I think I could have done more if I wasn't chasing commercial.
But
Right.
8 years? I mean, sorry, 8, after 8 months, like the first year you said 8 deals?
Yeah, so
That's
I
good.
got my license in 14, didn't do in June, and then didn't do my first deal until February of 15. And then after that first deal, we ended up doing like 8 or 9 that year. And then after that, it just kind of took off. But you know what, to the point, I wish I really had done this, because I was chasing new business, like cold call, open house. You heard part of my story that I started working my sphere, and when I did, more results came, but I didn't funnel it the way we're talking about here, right? It wasn't until like year 5 or 6 where I finally said, oh, I'm tired of this rat race. It was a good rat race, don't get me wrong, but it was so like up, down, sideways, you know, I just couldn't see myself doing that for the long term. So approach, connect, ask everywhere you go. Any ahas before we keep on going?
Yeah, actually, cause I think about the same thing like you mentioned, cause I'm like, okay, what else can I be doing to generate, you know, to get in front of more people, like meaning door knocking or cold calling, but most of the ones that I'm in who are potentials that I'm working with now are from my sphere of influence. So I'm like, okay, maybe you need to start getting it more out there and
Yeah.
you know, talking to more people that I know.
If I recall, it was the year 2018, I was just fired, or 2017, so I was just fired as a team leader here, or not here, at the other office, assistant team leader. I was like, I wasn't even in a paid position, I was volunteering, and they fired a volunteer. That was fun. So I had nothing else to do, like I had dedicated my time, I made like 97,000 selling real estate. I was trying to break into leadership, And I had all this free time in 18. So in 18, I just went full throttle and made like 165,000 selling real estate. But everything felt like an accident, because I was door knocking, prospecting, training on my cell phone, but I wasn't building a database. I was just adding them in for the sake of adding them in, but not purposely marketing through it. In 19, I looked back and said, whoa, that was a crazy year, right? Spending more time with my family than ever before, losing deals because I wasn't systematized, losing deals because I wasn't like bringing on the help. I mean, there was a lot of stuff I look back on. So I went to my list and said, wow, 70 or 80% of the business came from referrals or sphere. And I had a bunch of like one-offs with cold calls, door knocking, open house, whatever. So I specifically hired a coach and said, hey, and now it's pretty cool because they actually ask you, what's your number one goal? Like, what's the one thing you could do that made everything easier or necessary was kind of the question. And I said, well, if I could build a business off my database. So in 19, we did like 20 deals, made the same amount of money, but literally nothing was cold. I did no open houses, did no cold calls. We had one call come from Zillow because they reverse engineered how to find me, right? So they found me as a listing agent and we helped them buy a different house altogether. But that was the first year where I had complete control of my time. Family life was like through the roof. And we made about the same amount of money as the year before. And it actually allowed us to set ourselves up to sell our house, buy another house because of the back-to-back income years. And then 2020, 2021, we just took off.
I have a question regarding that, Philip, when you said like working your database, I know you mentioned it so many times, but every time I hear something over and over again, it hits me differently the next time. But when you say that, like, okay, so do you mean that, you know, sending them monthly or quarterly? Is that what you're referring to when you say work your database?
So I was still rudimentary at the time. Like we had a monthly market update going on. It was right around the time Command, the database that we use, and we'll be jumping into that. That's when it first came out, and we were just using the most basic version. If they had a home address that we could email around, like market updates, and a email address, that was the only drip campaign we were using. Working the database at that time meant they were getting one phone call from me, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 if we were following up right. And then I was more heavy on social media. I was connecting more with folks. Before the 1051 on direct messaging became a thing, we were already kind of doing exactly what you were doing, and then just connecting, building off that connection. And so it was centralized around that, and I just forego anything that wasn't a warm, quote unquote, warm or relatively warm call. The coldest call I made was to like someone I went to high school with, and the last time we'd seen each other was 2003, right? And that was like the coldest call. And then I really got support from my core group and said, hey, I apologize. I know you guys have been referring people to me, and this is one of my business sins was I wasn't working those leads. How stupid is that, right? So I started going back and finding that all these people that referred to me or that I knew through a different source had bought a house already or sold a house. There were 40 deals as I was going through all the stacks of paper, all the stacks of paper and folders and all the stuff I was keeping leads on, but not having them in a database or pipeline. And then that's where I realized, like, oh my God, I need to quintuple on this. And then again, we had a killer year, and now we're building essentially off of that base. And that's essentially around people we know.
Were you reaching out once a month? But depending on the conversation?
Correct. So if Matthew, if you pick up Matthew and we hit it off or whatever the result is, and let's say you're like, well, you know, I'm thinking about it, it really has to be toward the end of the year. Awesome. I'll put a plug in, I'll put a task in there that, hey, he wants to really explore this in winter, but I'll make the follow-up call like half the time. So instead of calling in November, I'll call in August.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they tell me, hey, I'll be ready in July, I'll call in June. Hey, I'm ready in January of next year, great, I'll call you in October. So whatever they tell you that the follow-up period is, cut it in half. And then also on Command, you can just set a quarterly call base as well. And then the reminder just comes up. So now when I'm making my hour power calls or what I internally call the rat patrol calls, I just go in and just call everyone that had a task for today, or if I missed them from the week before, just give them a call, see what's happening.
Okay, and then when you call quarterly, like let's say I exhausted my contacts in my phone, I've already connected with most of them. So if I call them quarterly, and she's like, hey, just wanna see how things are going,
Totally.
and then kind of go into like, do you know, or have you heard
Yeah,
anybody talking?
I would, before I get into the like referral base, I would go into the market of the moment. And it depends on like, and this is where the database really comes into play. You gotta be sort of a nerd is just typing in the notes from the last conversation.
Yeah.
So Matthew might say, well, Philip, I'm thinking about buying another house, and these things have to happen, like something at work or whatever it is. Awesome. So when I'm following up with them, the market of the moment would be like, hey, how's everything at XYZ company? Last time we spoke, oh yeah, I got the promotion, whatever that dialogue is, it's about them. Then I go into the market of the moment, hey, as you know, interest rates are at an all-time high and they're climbing. And believe it or not, with everything going on, it's still a seller's market.
Yeah.
What, really? Yes, these are the stats. We're still not at a 6-month inventory. So build around that market of the moment. Great resources is, believe it or not, through srar.com. You'll get like the valley and county stat or city of LA stats. CAR publishes them every month, and you get quarterly reports too. Stephanie's really good at bringing a guest speaker on numbers, and I kind of build my messaging around what's being taught. Cindy, excellent source, obviously for rates, not just a plug because of financing, but she really knows like the market in terms of like, hey, this is how sensitive, if you increase it 1%, this is when a payment goes up at XYZ purchase price.
Yeah, I can give you a market snapshot anytime you feel like you need one to have an excuse to call someone. or
Yeah,
find out about it.
And that constant never-ending improvement, like they do classes on, I was attending classes at the board that were about marijuana dispensaries, and I would just post about it. With every time we had a legal speaker come out, every time we had like a market update, something about bills and laws being passed or not being passed, that just went right into the data bank. And we would just pull it out in conversation over the phone.
My boss told me he posted a video on LinkedIn and I watched it. And he posted this short video announcing that we have lenders who will give you income credit if you have ADU income. ADU, yeah,
Nice.
and that's like something not many people do. or know about.
That's
So,
pretty amazing.
yeah, so, those are cool little things to send out to the world.
On your note, leverage your own interests. I actually like reading books. I like studying about leadership and history. And a lot of my calls aren't, especially on the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 15th, 20th call to somebody over a period of time, you kind of start building a relationship with them that goes beyond just, hey, who do you know who wants to buy or sell? Right now it's like, I'm helping a couple of my buddies with their career, like through coaching them, right? Like, hey, you're working on getting into a management position. Have you thought about these 5 principles? And here's the book that I got it from Extreme Ownership. So I might talk about a book and I'm introducing them to the world of personal development, that no one else is talking to them about. So there's different elements you can bring from your life and into their world. And now you kind of stand out more. This is really about being the number 1 or number 2 person in their mind when it comes to real estate. How do you get there? You get there through so many different mediums. Prospecting versus marketing. Lead generation is a contact sport. I have a t-shirt that says that with simple rules. It means making contact with people through prospecting and marketing. That's the business. And Ben Acosta with Fidelity National Title, he said, this business is about getting into relationships with people and maintaining, keeping those relationships, right? Who they think of and how they think of us is key, right? And how we think of them is key too. We don't have to work with everybody just because they're in a position to buy or sell real estate. If they're really not a match for you for whatever the reason, let them go or refer them out. I've said no to people. I fired clients before. I fired clients the year I wasn't making any money. I was like, I don't think this is gonna work out. Oh man, and I should have listened to advice. I was chasing this one deal out to Colton to help them buy real estate. I think I spent more money in gas and money I didn't have because I was borrowing money from my mom and all this stuff. Just to find out, like, oh, I should have listened to Audrey. That was her agent services at the other office.
What was the issue, or not the issue, but like why?
Yeah, they were just like, Philip, we would get a deal accepted, and even as rookie as I was, we were getting deals accepted, the offers. I should try to see if I can pull them up. Everything on there, you guys would like say, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong.
That would be a good teaching.
I'll see if I can pull it up because my first contracts were like stupid. You know, like, you had the offer price, I didn't even have an offer price, I just put a loan amount. And then the lady was so nice, she was like, yeah, you don't actually have an offer price in here. You basically are putting here that it's 100% financing, and I was like, oh, man.
Oh, now it won't let you go, right? Now it
Now,
will stop you. Oh, you need this.
well,
you
now
need
it
that.
will, because it's called the Philip rule, you make those kind of mistakes, and send them out. But truthfully, you can decide your own fate when it comes to business, right? Now this is where you capture leads, and this is something really cool that we want to go over, because when you help someone buy here, they might not move for a 7 to 10 year period of time, and life happens all the way through before their next move, right? It's not like we're in auto insurance or home insurance where there's renewals, people get new cars, all this stuff, and you're making money. Now, I'm not gonna jump into it now because it hasn't been formally released. Forward Living, the parent company above the brokerages, Calabasas, Larchmont, Bakersfield, Studio City, Beverly Hills, Westside, all these places. There's actually going to be a strategic partnership with a company that will allow us to actually earn cash flow income off of things that don't involve a real estate sale. So be on the lookout for that. High five. I think that's going to be an epic game changer.
Like if they need insurance or.
No, not insurance. We're talking about full-on ADU construction, among other things. So a value add from us to our clients in this period of time is how do we help them become cash flow investors or building equity into their homes, building equity in our own homes. You'll see more of that over that time, but this is where we're capturing leads as they refer people to us, and we build more relationships through that time.
Can I add to that in this 7-year period?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
That once you have somebody who's a contact and you know where they are in the cycle, you want to feed them ideas during that time. Talk to them about second homes. I mean, like informative articles, or just throwing them some stats or whatever on how to buy second homes or buying investment properties, or whatever, depending on what their situation might be. Because they may be planted in their forever home, who knows? But if you're feeding them ideas, they'll be thinking about you, but you'll be creating potential future sales in their minds, but they'll also be thinking about you for their kids or their family members or whatever. So always a good idea to feed them from time to time with non-annoying, thoughtful information and ideas.
I'm just dropping some books in the chat. Rich Dad, not Dada, Poor Dad, sorry. I still have to look at the keyboard as I type. My kids type and they're 10 and 12 and I'm like, yeah, exactly, I'm like, dude. So here's some books like for our own knowledge, and then it almost weirdly comes out as we're talking to people. And I would even throw in MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
Oh, I'm reading that now.
Oh, awesome.
my gosh.
The one
I
thing,
get so excited reading it.
Yeah.
if you want to be like a business coach of sort, you can literally read,
Wake up.
oh yeah.
Can you read those out loud, because I can't see?
Oh yeah, totally. So MREI, which is there you go, Christine Book Club, Think and Grow Rich. See, to Christine's point, like those books that you're reading isn't just to like increase your sales, it also increases your conversation with the people. This is what Jim Rohn's saying. He says, all teaching is, all sales is relatable experiences, stories, exactly, that's it. So the more stories you have in the back of your head and that you can pull out in that moment to connect with somebody, puts you head above the rest, because people remember a good story. If I tell them, well, rates are whatever percent, okay, then in 1 year out the other. If I'm able to relate something out of the one thing about, hey, a Russian proverb says, you chase 2 rabbits, you get none. Whoa, like someone might say, wow, that was pretty enlightening. Well, what does it mean to you? And they tell me, and I listen, and I write it down, or type it, or I remember it, hopefully. And then those are things that you're able to build on your next conversation with them.
I love that stuff.
So this is the secret sauce to making like anything you work, is the outside personal development. Now, talk to Christine, because she's got the full 12 months of training there. Will that help if I do it that way?
No, I still can't read.
Oh. I will copy chat. Come on, I mean,
Just tell me what they are, I can
Oh,
see tax-free wealth.
millionaire real
which I'm
estate
reading
investor,
now, and
tax-free
it's
wealth, the next one is flip,
great.
and then there's hold, both by Gary Keller and Jay Pavisan, I believe.
Okay,
BRRRR, is buy, rent, renovate, refinance, repeat, that's what the Bigger Pockets podcast guys. David Green, Brandon Murdoch, or Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. Tax-free wealth is one of the books by the Rich Dad Poor Dad Advisory Group. His name is Tom Milwright. This is pretty close, because this was written, tax-free wealth was written right when Donald Trump was in office and they made the tax code official in 2017. He wrote a whole book on that tax code, and we're still under that tax code. The new administration never changed it, haven't really done anything with it prior with the tax code in force. So what you read here is pretty much on point with how to set yourself up as a corporation, as an entity, how to depreciate your real estate, all that fun stuff. Very last one here is MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And you can replace real estate with insurance, and the same principles apply. Everything we're learning in Ignite could be applied to almost any business when you think about what we're covering.
it's after hold.
BRRRR, B-R-R-R-R, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay, got it. Okay, very good, thanks.
Rich Dad Poor Dad connected to, we met a couple that was their quote unquote Bible was Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Okay.
but it was connected to like a multi-level marketing.
Great question. So there was early on in the genius that is Robert Kiyosaki, he actually wanted to make Rich Dad Poor Dad like a multi-level institution. And what he obviously didn't do it, right? But his big thing is find a way where you can be a part of one of those companies for 5 years if you ever wanted to pursue wealth. And he said that because of all the rejection. You know, like all the principles when it comes to personal development, all the rejection you face, it'll like give you the tough skin and grit essentially that you would need to pursue anything down the road in life, or who knows, maybe you make it big. But yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad would be kind of like the entry level into thinking outside of the box, right? I think there's an element where you can benefit from both worlds. Like a lot of my real estate friends who, you know, spend a significant time in college building relationships, all their buddies just went on to buy homes, sell real estate, invest in real estate. And so I've learned that those college circles become great networks, right? Like I'm telling my son, like, yeah, I mean, there's people who've not gone to college, but I want you to think of college as a great way to expand your network in a way of meeting people that you wouldn't have met before. He's 12. He's like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, you know, those are circles that you may potentially keep with you for life, like you're building in jujitsu and scouting, right? And so but to answer your question, yes and no, because originally I think there was an idea about that back in the 2000s.
This was a while ago,
Yeah.
The couple we were talking was very different from what my fiance used to know them as.
Right.
So when we met with them, we thought we'd just meeting to hang out, but the first thing I started talking about it, and I'm open to a lot of things. But as I started doing research and seeing their whole new mindset, it was like surround yourself with all the wealthy people, which no doubt you surround yourself with, you know, people who are probably more go-getter, you're probably gonna start catching on.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be like a natural kind of, like they always say, your network is your network type of thing. I think of that as like from an education standpoint, like if I hang around millionaires, you're right, I'm gonna learn something about, like this is something I learned over the weekend. Paul Morris, who owns the collection of offices, he bought check this out, he bought a commercial building in 29 Palms out like in the desert, right? He bought it for $400,000 and rehabbed it for $100,000. So $500,000 all cash, all in. And he said, guys, it was a slam dunk. We're like, how? It's 29 Palms. And he said, if you can earn every month 1% of what you put into it, of what your purchase price is, it's a slam dunk. And he says the rent there is going to be $5,500 to $6,000. That's 1% earned at least every month. And I thought, dude, that is genius. So any investment you make, and he said this is why buying in the West Side, these multi-million-dollar homes don't make any sense, because 1%, you're not renting it out for the 1% and you purchase it for. And so anytime you can find something where you can make 1% a month of what you're, yeah. And I thought, man, that is a genius thing, and it's such a simple idea, right? I'm nowhere close to like his assets. I mean, even if he took my equity, it's not in where he's at, right? So, but yeah, that is funny little tip there. And then find stuff that resonates with you. I tend to go to Jim Rohn a lot, Think and Grow Rich,
Love it
you
too,
know,
yeah.
yeah. Such simple and timeless sayings and mindset, right? And then as you grow, when they're ready to move, this is something I thought of the other night reading this or studying this. Do you want to be the same person they met 7 to 10 years ago? You know, or do you think you're going to be in a different place 7, 10, whenever they're ready, in a different place later? This is food for thought.
That's huge, because back in the day when I was introduced to like Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was with a life insurance company.
Yeah.
Like, it was like a what is it that?
Level.
Multi-level company. Again, they were huge on, you know, personal development. For me, I didn't get so much from the business, but starting at 18,
Oh,
because
yeah.
somebody recruited me, like my sister and my brother-in-law recruited me because somebody they knew recruited them. So I was like, sure, I'll go. But for me, it was like a game changer, not the business side, but being introduced to like all these, you know,
Yeah.
personal development things at a young age. That's why I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it. And the one thing that someone said and it stuck with me is you cannot go to the next level with the thinking that you have at this moment. Like, you have to change your mindset in order to achieve the next state and the next state and the next state.
Right, because
And
you can
that's
learn the
huge.
systems, but if it's still in the same type of mindset,
Yeah.
you're pretty much gonna almost repeat the same results. You might get some better results because you're just breaking through different achievement levels. But that mindset does matter. And I think we've covered that heavily in terms of what we covered here. You're gonna hear that a lot from Bold. You know, you can only grow to the extent that you do. Like, that's life in business. Let's see here. On that note, thank you very much, by the way. Prospecting versus marketing, the very immediate, like there's a concept called lead with revenue, and that's focusing where immediate results, prospecting, like actually just making calls, meeting people face to face, is proactive and time intensive. And then over the long run, when you're using data campaigns and mailers and just different aspects, maybe even handwritten notes, it's still free. Long-term results, it's more passive types of approach, money intensive. You're investing more money than your time in terms of marketing. And we're kind of discovering that now. I mean, these are things I could have done years ago and we're just starting to do now, right? Prospecting, these are 10 examples for prospecting, phone to phone or face. You guys want to
This is
take a
gold.
picture, be my guest.
This is gold.
Is it saved up?
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
oh, yeah, totally.
I don't know
You can see that too.
Same here. That's why I take a picture.
But circle prospecting is where I essentially lived when I first started my career. I actually called around recently listed properties, so I just take a list of homes that were for sale and I'll just say, oh, let me call around Reseda or whatever, and I'll say, hey, this is Filip Crispino with Keller Williams Porter Ranch. The reason I'm calling today is that a home listed in your neighborhood at 1234 Main Street for $350,000. God, yeah, back in the day, for $350,000. And we both know, and we all know that when one house gets listed, 2 or 3 more follow. And I was curious to know if you knew of any of your neighbors who were looking to sell. Usually, by the time I got halfway through, someone hung up on me. But by the time the ones that actually let me pitch the whole thing, and I learned how to like kind of condense that straight off of Mike Ferry, they would just say no. Or whatever it is. And then you just ask the next question, which if you follow the script, it would say, well, fantastic. If you were ever to move.
It's like, no.
No, like, and then I learned how to match their energy, maybe not that tall. But I was so like, cool, this is what they're telling me to read, I'm gonna read it. And I just put my own little spin to it. But it was one of those things where people eventually started saying, sure, let me talk to you. I'm granted now I'm following up those people and their homes are worth $900,000 now, whatever price it is at. But we have this weird 8-year relationship of me following up with them, and now they've been getting cards from me, and it's just kind of evolved. But then the initial ones you guys heard of this story is I would leave messages on people's answering machines with the reason I was calling. And my first cold call listing came from somebody who answered and said, hey, I thought it was a sign from God that you left this message, can you meet me? And I was like, dude, where at? Like, I didn't even know, you know, so anyways, it evolved from there.
That's the hard work you were putting into.
Yeah, I mean, we
Mentoring
were,
somebody.
yeah, team leader said, hey, Phil, you should make 100 contacts a day. Okay. Great, but what's a contact? What do you consider a contact? So she told me, someone you talk to, follow up with, face to face, on the phone, at the door. whatever, and I was like, cool. I don't think I ever really did 100 a day, I was more like doing 50, 60 a day, right? But it was just still like, oh, hey, let's just meet people, right? I wish you had told me about calling people I knew, right? And then call 50 people I know, but hey, I'll take it.
Can I highlight number 5 real quick?
Yes, I'll just stop the point of media, yes.
Anybody who wants to do some teaching and speaking, I do a lot of that, and I'm happy to do it jointly with you, or do it for your peeps, so.
Good to know, because I used to work at Taft High School and I'm trying to get a luncheon there. So I reached out to a couple people, but no one's really said anything to me, so I gotta keep trying.
Anything,
And I wanted a speaker.
anything lending or financial literacy kind of related, I'm
Yeah.
all over it.
It would be that, like
You
for
have to love
teachers.
those series too.
Do you have any like lending information for teachers?
I'm sure I could
Yeah.
type something up.
Okay, because I know they have some deals for that.
Yeah.
Real quick, this is the marketing aspect. If you guys want to take a quick photo of that. Now some of this, I'll see if I can jump on to KW Command. I just don't know my password offhand, but we did our very first campaign. And so if you link your Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or whichever medium you use to your KW Command, you can take a listing and then market that listing through Command. So I did a breakdown where for $30, I was gonna get 1.1 million impressions through KW Command. We ended up getting 5 leads from it so far, and we're filtering through the rest. But that's something, I do a KW Command party twice a month, and the next one will be online, and it's the day before Memorial Day weekend, but I'll still be.
Are you
here
gonna do
before
it on Command Party first?
we're gonna do ours on Thursday, but yeah.
Yes, it's,
Oh, that's right, I'll record it, yeah, because I'm gonna record it for Josh will
I
take
think
over
it's
it,
like
so.
KW.
Okay, awesome.
Oh, that,
Yeah.
yours. And then here's a formation of both, where you have your geographic farm, your demographic farm, open houses, seminars, contests, client appreciation events. And believe it or not, these are more lower cost type marketing and prospecting events, because you can literally do this with the printer here at the office, a great partner in Cindy, and then leveraging the team here to help you with that. Ahas, let me fly through into goldmine referrals. Always provide value, share your KW app, and for Matthew, when you meet with Andrew at Agent Services on that appointment, he'll get you kind of set up with KW Command, connect all those pieces. And Heather, the same thing, when you're onboarded, you'll have access to all those items too. Everywhere you go, to Jessica's point, ask for referrals and reward referrals. And you're not sending them a $100 gift card for referring somebody, but set aside a little bit of money, maybe send them a scratcher ticket. Like I used to do the $5 gift cards, and then we kind of changed it to like a scratcher ticket, and we did like 5 scratcher tickets in the mail, that we would just send them a thank you note plus the cards. You can also use send out cards. I use that. It's just the markup's a little higher, so I tend, when it's like a referral, I'll handwrite the note, thank you, and then stick in a $5 gift card and save the $2 premium or whatever they markup they charge for that. And off that goes. Let's see here. Agent to agent referrals. This is like something that we don't talk about all too much. We highlighted the last one. There was like somebody referring at 45% if you referred your clients to their agency out in Arizona. So I thought that was kind of neat. But agent to agent referrals, as you grow your referral network, whether it's through KW Connect, through networking here in the Valley, and you're like, well, Phil, what's the benefit of networking with other agents? Well, we've highlighted a couple where, hey, I can choose who I want to work with, and if Matthew's a better fit for this person to really gel with, for whatever the reason, well, awesome. I'm gonna refer him out, and if Matthew's cool with sending back a 25% referral fee, high five, everyone's happy. Client gets protected, he gets a large share of the deal, I get a little bit of passive income, and we keep going. So there's different ways to grow, manage, maintain. I use Command to even maintain my agent to agent relationships too. And it might not be as robust. I might not call them when the quarterly call comes up, but I'll do my best to at least text them and say, hey, Sergey, it's Philip, how are things going? And how are things moving for you? And then it just kind of keeps the relationship warm. And when he has a client who's coming from Vegas, who's like, hey, Philip, I have somebody, will you pay X amount? Totally awesome, great, here's the deal. here's the contact information, we send a referral agreement, off we go. So don't forget this, again, we're paying what, 35 to 40% for Hawk City, we're likely just paying between 20 to 35%, maybe 30 at the most, for agent to agent referral.
And don't forget that when when agents are starting to really take off and their business is growing, they start to call off things that they don't wanna do anymore.
So,
They don't wanna do those places that they have to drive too far to go to, or, whatever. Different pieces of business that they just don't want to be bothered with anymore, that you guys would love to have, so that's another good one.
yeah, I mean, to that point, the amount of it, talked to Doug Pitts and Eileen Rodriguez, so Doug doesn't do anything under a certain number. So he'll get a deal in like Simi Valley, which you would think Simi Valley's okay, right,
Yeah.
700,000. Oh, Eileen, you take it.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like slam dunk, or they do a lot of like cash offers where they're offering the owner cash. And it's not, and I know it's being recorded here, but and it's nothing bad, they're offering a deal, a win-win-win-win deal all the way around. And they're like, no, I'd rather sell it for full market value, because if we're realtors, we're disclosing what their home's worth on the open market. And he'll walk away from the deal and give it to Eileen the list, right? And then she sells it for whatever it sells for. Referral network, you can literally through KW Connect refer anyone in the world almost, all the way through hey, all the way from here. I referred a client recently through to Paris, France. It was pretty. Hey, to Paris, France, and off they go. They're gonna go lease a flat and eventually hopefully buy something. I don't know if the laws that are out there. Worldwide referrals, I just kind of hit the France one. There's one in Italy, Philippines, Turkey, Mexico.
Philip, how do you like spread yourself out like that for them to know you're here and there?
Great question. So you can go, so last, I finally updated it because I'm doing the class or the demand party. So you can go to settings on your name, and then you can actually put all the locations that you
Oh,
want.
okay, just add them.
And so you can put in luxury real estate and tag it in different locations. And when people are searching, they may search for production. Like for me, my criteria when I'm looking for a referral agent with the Keller Williams, are they in the MAPS program? And that's because I'm in the MAPS program. I know they're higher level of training. If I can't find someone specific match for the client, I might broaden it to something where who tags themselves as VA representative, or they specifically work with VA buyers, or a large chunk of what they do is VA. And if they took the time to actually write in their description, like this is what we specialize in, this is what we do, awesome. There's been some calls where I've based it on how many single family homes they've sold or condo units they've sold, and you can find stats that way too. Not just locations in the area, because every market center, God, has hundreds of people, right? Just like any board of realtors. But at least now you kind of zero in on someone that took the time to put all that data in there, and for you to be able to search it. So that kind of goes back, back to your mission. One of our first sessions was about mission, vision, values, belief systems, and perspective, right? So what's your mission? What's your one thing in aiding people in real estate? We know our life mission. What is our one niche, or maybe you have a handful of niches that you want to work on, and then you can self-describe yourself as,
Your niche too sure.
They always say riches are in the niches, right? Business to business referrals, this is a key one, an easy one to make contacts with, because every person who runs and operates a business will likely answer their cell phone or return a call at some point. If you can go business to business on your database, like people who you already give money to, we call that strategic partners, or people that are vendors to us, we're vendors to them, call them and ask them about business to business referrals. No harm. These are people who do your hair, do your nails, who might do your dry cleaning, your landscaper, your go-to contractor, your go-to handyman or woman, your tax preparer, your life insurance agent, your home insurance agent, your auto insurance agent. If they're all the same person, thumbs up. You're giving them 3-4 pieces of business. Ask them, how can we make this like a strategic partnership where A, I get to highlight you, and B, you get to highlight me. And when someone thinks of real estate, I'm not asking to be your number one, but if you could throw me in there in the top 2, top 3 of the conversation, that's awesome. So I might not be a fit for everyone However, if I can be in the running, and I used to start there. Now it's kind of like, hey, what would it take me to be the number one person in your head? And people have literally told me, hey, Phil, if you send me more business, you're gonna be the number one guy. I'm like, I'll do my best, and truly, if the client will benefit from being in a relationship with them, awesome, but that kind of goes with reading the lay of the land and the territory.
With regards to this and like kickbacks and all that, I know that's not allowed, but like, would this be a free referral where like if you talk about me, I'll talk about you?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I tend to talk about people who do really well. Like my accountant, he has other people he refers business to, but damn, he was really good. So I find someone on par with him, I'm gonna like work hard to earn his business. I refer people to him that I feel or he feels could be a match. So at this point, it's more like who's the best fit for the client, whether or not I get a referral. Like I have attorneys who are really good at what they do, and my name gets floated out there. I might not be the #1 pick, but again, that's me working on my value proposition, working on our ability to.
If you're like in contract as the estate agent of a house and you like, and you have different vendors that you need, like the pest control or a general inspector and all that, and I know you're not supposed to just refer, one person,
Oh,
but
great.
a list. So if I have somebody that's like a go-to person that I use for my own house, personal preference, and I told them that I'm in real estate, I'm not, which was just discussed, but like, can you provide like your top 3? You can't really
Oh, yeah, totally.
pinpoint one person.
To your point, absolutely. When it comes to termite, we have 3. When it comes to home inspections, we have actually 5.
If it's
that we
your own
refer out.
if it's your own personal like preference, you can put them in as one of the 5, or how does that work?
I give them a list.
Okay,
And then, the ones that like our team heavily works with IM home inspections, they do their part, which is they control their social media, they've got their Google reviews. So when they look up Ian Mayer or IM home inspections, they've got like 100+ reviews. And then the other 2 that we actually know are good have very few reviews, if anything.
okay.
And we know they're solid though, right? So it might just be a matter of connection and price. Ian's company happens to have a 24/7 call center, essentially, so they take calls and relay messages almost all day, where the other 2 are solo armies, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if they can't pick up the call when someone else is, guess who's getting the business,
Yeah.
right? So to that point, to your point, yeah, we totally recommend 2 or 3. When it comes to financing, very similar, like, hey, Heather, if you've got someone like your bank that you're already working with, by all means call them. If not, hey, no worries, we have 2 or 3 you can interview. And usually by the first one, you're kind of like, oh, we connected really well with Cindy or Kara or Sandra, and that's kind of it. So, but a lot of that we also base on like personality match. I'm sorry guys, I'm flying through it to get you guys out of here. More sources, geographic farming, we kind of highlighted this, a collection of homes in the neighborhood that an agent chooses to focus their marketing and prospecting efforts on. I did mine in Panorama City where I live. I even joined the neighborhood council and helped start the neighborhood watch that we had for a number of years up until we moved and the pandemic happened. So creating a community and being the leader, and there's something to say about that. Leadership is everywhere and it's everything, right? You want to see a thriving business or place, look at the leadership. If it's not thriving, look at the leadership. And we look at our businesses, we're the leader of that business. So obviously we get to do some introspection there. But look at the geographic area as not just, oh, cool, so many sales happen here, I'm gonna get mine. Think of how you can bring value. And that's just one little tidbit there. Minimize your prospecting and marketing in a geographical farm to open houses, social media, conversion contacts, maximize, not minimize, all the way through. Events and seminars. You guys network with Cindy, leverage Cindy's experiences, her resources, and her ability to help close those clients on the buyer aspect, and even the sale aspect. Sometimes it's contingent upon can they afford and finance their next deal, and that would be a great event or seminar. Maybe Prop 19, how to maximize that if you're an owner occupant, maximizing the 1031 exchange. And in a 1031 exchange, you still want a exchange accommodator there, you want a lender there, someone that can really, and yourself as a realtor. Leads are everywhere. Christine, if you're still on here, she wears her name badge everywhere she goes, a grocery store, coffee shop, repair shop, dentist, everywhere. I'm sorry guys, capture every lead, command. So again, use whatever you want. Command is likely the most premier place you'll find where you will not lose anybody. And granted, they're constantly evolving the program, but think about this. When I was thinking of leaving Keller Williams, I was gonna get my broker's license and say, cool, I'm gonna go join broker and trust, be my own entity, just pay a flat fee, off we go. I looked for a database system comparable to what I was using with Command. And the one I found was actually KV Core. KV Core is the base program that Command uses to create this. And in order to even just get a pipeline, a basic database and a basic task reminder system was $1,500 a month. Yes, I was like, thanks, but no thanks. I'm cool. Let me find a different office where I feel we can grow and culture-wise, right? And thank God I found you guys, Calabasas. So my point is that Command, they're investing millions of dollars every year into this thing, and we're a tech company first and foremost, right? A tech company that happens to be a training and coaching consulting agency that focuses on realtors and real estate agents who happen to focus on their databases, their public, their spheres of influences, their clients, right? So top down, all this is designed for us and our user experience for our clients and for that interaction to go long term. So when you think of that mission statement, that's not the exact mission statement, but when you think about like what the focus is on a macro level, all the way down to like me just using the rudimentary fundamentals of it, it's like this perfect marriage in terms of business. And for those who are playing devil's advocate, called the elephant in the room, hey, Philip, what if I leave Keller Williams? Will they keep all my data? No, there's a giant export button. No, there's a giant export button where you can take all the context, all the information, all the notes out of Command and then put it into your preferred, yeah, absolutely, into your preferred contact base, right? So that is Command in a brief nutshell. I am learning how to use it more and more. I'm not even using it to the max capability. My VA, our team, we're not using it to its max capability. I started earlier about monetizing Cindy's database, monetizing our databases. Command is allowing us to do that. And I don't know if they know it, but they're literally building multi-million-dollar businesses within the company off of our $25 a month and franchise royalty fee that we're paying. We're paying butt kiss compared to what they're giving us. You know, what I cap at 3,000 on royalty, whatever $25 times 12 months is, so like $3,400 a year going to this program. Thank you, Gary Keller. Lead generation plan, connect with your sphere. We've been hitting that like crazy. Build and feed your database, capture leads from open houses, build community with social media and capture leads, execute referral strategy, choose a geographic area. That's where I need to focus on is 6. That's definitely my weakness. And 7, consider events and seminars. Let me take a picture of that because even me studying it, I'm like, oh, I'm not doing a bunch of those things. Like building community with social media and capturing leads. There's certainly way more room for me. Capturing leads from open houses, way more room for us to grow in. Build and feed your database, again, rudimentary for me. And so I know there's elements for all of us along this real estate business journey for us to grow, and keeping that perspective. And what you feel right now is like this giant chasm. You're gonna look back a few years from now and say, wow, what was so big is now so small. And you're still gonna have those same chasm challenges. It's just gonna be like at this level, right? It's called life. We all go through it. Any ahas before we break and get on the phones and do all the fun stuff that makes our day happen? Anyone online? Anyone here? Oh, Heather and then Edie.
I mean, it's like a simple thing, like you mentioned before, like going to a nail salon or something and asking if you could leave your business card there, especially if you're a frequent customer, and developing those relationships where people don't necessarily know you, but they think highly of you as a customer. And so you can have some benefit to having like self-care or whatever your doctor's office is.
That's huge.
I think it can nail like something where your hair done, where it's not high stakes, and you might actually appreciate, you know, that, and where you're a good customer.
100%. And on that note, I just wrote a book here called Giftology. I forget the name of the author, but that's another book that kind of focuses on building, building gifts, and it doesn't have to be super high cost gifts. We're talking about handwritten notes. You have like a nail salon that's willing to do like free whatever for somebody for a raffle. That's a great way to capture leads or contacts, at least maybe not leads, but capturing contacts. Just different ways to grow that. Edie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, on the business to business end, what if we took, like, just call people maybe off your database or
Yeah.
whatever, and just be like, hey, would you be willing to exchange referral, you know, like,
Totally.
what do you do for a living? Can I use you or you use me?
Yeah, you have in bold, and I used to use this for insurance, but in bold, they actually talk about creating a business, and the direct question is, hey, let's see if we can find a way that we can help each other grow. And you meet them in person, and then you find out, you do what's called a needs analysis about their business, like how long have they been in business, you know, what are some of their key points, what are some of their key strengths or struggles, and then how you can match the two up. Now, sometimes, you know, as crazy as it sounds, there's also a lot of businesses that have no care in the world. They're like, awesome, great, made a contact, on to the next person. And you find like-minded people like you who would be open to sharing in that type of goal and vision. So, you know, in the end, there's so many ways to get into it. Like as you were running out of, Jessica's case, running out of people, like you've already gone through like 1 or 2 cycles, and now it's about feeding the database with like new contacts to follow up with. Business would be awesome. A circle prospect list around an open house or a listing, or specifically to your neighborhood would be ideal if you're already in the neighborhood. When I door knocked, it was, hi, my name is Philip. I'm your neighbor over at 8144 Ranchito Avenue. The reason I'm stopping by today, so now I've introduced myself. I didn't say I'm a realtor. I've introduced myself as a neighbor. I gave them my physical address so they can relate to Ranchito that's around the corner, whatever. The reason I'm stopping by, okay, let me listen. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams North Valley. The reason I wanted to share with you is that market prices are up 20% this year over last year, and we can still say that, which is kind of crazy, is up 20% this year over last year. And I was curious to know if you knew of anyone who might be thinking of investing in real estate this time or possibly selling while prices are an all-time high. And this is in 2015, you know, and it applied then as it applies now, right? You just change the numbers for your market area and still introduce yourself as a neighbor, even if you're renting in the place. Hey, I'm your neighbor at such and such Tampa Avenue or whatever, you know, and you kind of build it from there. If you're in condos, apartment complexes already, join the HOA or whatever their equivalent of an HOA, those committee meetings, because you'll never know who's like-minded like you, and off you go.
She's like in a 500 complex.
Oh, geez, yeah.
How do I cross that?
Yeah, find out if they have like a building meeting, because typically like those type of complexes will have once a month some sort of meeting. Like in Panorama City, they have the apartment owners and apartment managers conference once a year, or they should do more of those. But it was at the Kester Rec Center. And there I still have these, I said points of command, but I still have the contacts, the 10 or 12 people that still get our emails, and still get our, now they're getting cards from Josh. But then I'm calling them 2 to 4 times a year because they're just on the drip campaign.
Will they like frown upon that though? Like, oh, real estate, you're trying to take my tenants or?
No, they were actually pretty excited to have a real estate agent because their tenants, at least where they own their properties, were paying little to nothing. I mean, a lot of people were stuck at like $500 a month in rent. So they would welcome the idea of, oh my God, if someone moves, we'll get normal rent. So I never saw it as a conflict. Like the ones like the Madison, it's a place in Valencia. Their average rent is like $5,200 a month, and they know that it's high turnaround, right? Like someone's not going to commit 50. Oh, maybe they have tenants, I imagine, but $5,000 a month for 10 years, probably not. You know, somewhere someone's gonna realize like I should just buy it. You know, like buy something. But you know that happens, and it might be a great referral source. Never know, people are moving, like, oh, talk great. You know, but that's prospecting. That is being a detective and kind of finding out where the opportunities are at, and all that fun stuff. So, and anyone online, we have Katrina, we have Christopher, Nicole, Joseph. Does anyone want to share before we jump off?
I do have a question.
Oh, Brenda.
Regarding the apartments, I thought we weren't allowed to solicit it.
Well, if you're living in the apartment,
Well, yeah.
then you're kind of just like connecting with your neighbors. Throwing an event for the complex could also be ideal. I mean, you know, if you get some blowback, you're onto something good. You know, it sounds weird to say, but like being you know, you don't want to be like overly controversial, but you're not going to please everybody. Like we did door drops in that neighborhood I was living in Panorama City, and you know what happened a week later? The Century 21 agent started putting his signs up You know, like he didn't even have an open house, he just said, hey, call me to sell your house, and he just put them at like different corners, like, and then I saw him dropping off a little, his actual way better car than mine, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And I still kept door knocking, right, so that was a good sign, I knew I was onto something.
No, yeah, just because it's like, you know, they were mentioning it's apartment complex, so you're not really. If I remember correctly, I was told I'm not allowed in.
Well, you're not allowed to go door to door,
Yeah.
right, but
Okay.
you know what, if you first class postage mail a golden letter. Hi, my name is Brenda Herrera, I'm a realtor with Keller Williams Realty. The reason for this letter is that we noted, and just go through the market development, hey, we noticed that buyers now more than ever have an opportunity to land the house of their choice. If you would like more information, please text me, call me, email me, whatever, directly, and let's schedule a Zoom consultation as soon as possible. Right, something along those lines. And I don't know if you can handwrite it. Talk to Ben and Jamie, because you can actually physically handwrite it and they can mass produce that handwritten letter.
Yeah, I'll leave it to it.
Okay.
I've seen
Oh,
that.
okay.
I've done it. I've done it.
Awesome. I'm like, that's
Just
awesome.
you have to use blue pen.
Yeah.
That's a good tip.
What about everyday direct mail?
So EDDM, right? Awesome. If you're gonna do like a larger farm, it's way more cost effective. Just know that it pops up, like I found this out later, but it comes up in the newspaper stack. So it doesn't come out as like a regular envelope mail. They'll stack it. So we tried this with our micro farms, where we did EDDM for an entire area. And for a just listed card, it came out way late, like by the time it was already in escrow, right? So everything was delayed by several weeks. I love it for just a recurring monthly. If you're doing like a golden letter, maybe just invest in the postage stamp, especially for an apartment building. But if you're doing a postcard and it's a farm, totally EDDM, because you can go to the site and see what the routes are for that block. Like mine is $120 for 753 houses. So I wouldn't throw that away. That's something really good if you're doing a monthly and you pre-plan it for the whole year. So you kind of strategically say, okay, in January, we're doing a new year, new you, here's a market update, sort of. And then you mail it in December, so it hits January 10 or January 15, right? Or maybe you don't do a market update, you do like an email or hey, these are the most important numbers to call for the area, 311, so forth. Katrina, fire away.
So when you speak about circle prospecting around just an active listing, how are you getting the phone numbers? Are you reaching out to your title company every listing, or do you have a way that you know of to get the phone?
Awesome. That's a great question. So if you don't want to like constantly go through title, a very small investment, you can go to Repo Gateway. I'll drop it in the chat. And don't quote me on this because I know the prices change. But with Repo Gateway, I was only paying like $15 a month for access to all their phone numbers, right? And then I did the upgraded plan. And the upgraded plan allowed me like additional data, like for sale by owners, divorcees, and probates, death or recorded deaths and all that stuff. And the reason I invested in that was because I was tired of like going to the title rep and feeling like, hey, I love them. I love Ben and Jamie, but I felt weird like constantly asking for. Yeah, so small investment, and that's a great way to pull it. Or if you're brand new like me when I was brand new, I went through title. Wasn't Ben and Jamie, it was actually Lisa Crown, their trainer, and another company, Warriors Title. But that's one way to pull the data from that resource.
And it just pulls by like a radius, or do you have to go one by one by one by one?
Well, what was that, sorry?
Does it pull just by a radius? So if I put in the address of the active listing, it'll give me within a mile around all the phone numbers? Or
Yeah,
do you
if you do Repo Gateway, it will pull everything within a certain radius that you draw it out from. But remember, even though within a mile radius, you might have like 1,000 houses or 1,000 units, it's only if you filter it to only include phone numbers, it'll only include the phone numbers of it. Otherwise, they'll pull all the data, but then a lot of it won't have phone numbers. And on Repo Gateway, you can filter it to where it shows. Actually, you guys have a moment. I'll show you guys like how to use it.